Hi everyone, and welcome to the latest installment of Terrifying Trios. This month our theme is observation. The protagonists in these movies, and the writer of this month's book, all use observation to make sense of their circumstances and surroundings. But of course, the thing about horror is that whatever you're observing is probably observing you right back. Content warning. The following books and movies contain fictionalized depictions of graphic violence, including death by mutated animals, fire, body horror, one woman turns into plants, the removal of limbs, animal death, haunted houses, and other experiences designed to frighten, and more. As always, spoilers ahead. Don't listen to this if you want to go into these films and or books without knowing how they end. Viewer and reader discretion is advised. Our first movie this month is 2018's Annihilation. Described as cosmic horror, psychological horror, and boasting more than a little sci-fi sensibility, this film follows a woman named Lena, a former soldier turned cellular biologist. At the start of the film, she is being interrogated about an investigation into what's called the Shimmer. Years ago, an asteroid crashed into a lighthouse located in a Florida wildlife refuge, and now the plants and animals within have changed, sometimes dramatically. The Shimmer is gradually beginning to spread outward. Within this space, electronic devices don't work, and the people who have ventured inside to explore the otherworldly landscape haven't come back. Lena's husband, Kane, went into the Shimmer and disappeared, only to return a year later. However, Kane is different now, and he can't explain what happened to him or how he managed to escape. When Kane has some kind of medical emergency, instead of being taken to a hospital, he and Lena are brought to a military base, where Kane can be examined and hopefully stabilized in secret. This is when Lena meets Dr. Ventress, a psychologist who's planning a new mission to study the Shimmer. Anya, a paramedic, Cass, a geomorphologist, and Josie, a physicist, are the rest of her team, and Lena, given her qualifications, is invited to join the group. When the team of 5 head into the Shimmer, they quickly discover incredible things. There's mutated flora and fauna, as expected, but there are also signs of Kane and his group's journey into the Shimmer, including a video message in the ruins of an army base, and the remains of a human body consumed by lichen. As the group explores, they face danger in the form of obvious predators like the alligator that attacks Josie and the bear that drags Cassie off in the night. But there are also more subtle dangers. Josie's theory is that the Shimmer refracts everything within it like a prism. This happens both phenotypically, this means visual changes, and genotypically, at the level of DNA. When Anya sees her fingerprints changing, she restrains everyone in the group and claims that Lena killed Cassie. Lena found Cassie's body the night before, after the bear attack. However, the group then hears Cassie's voice outside, before the bear returns and kills Anya. While this is happening, Josie escapes, retrieves a gun, and kills the bear. Dr. Ventress sets out on her own for the lighthouse, where the asteroid that created the Shimmer is located. Josie and Lena encounter plants shaped like people, and Josie wonders if, before she died, Cassie managed to refract into the bear. Is that why it had her voice? Seeing herself beginning to change, Josie doesn't seem fearful, but rather amazed as she quickly becomes a mass of plants herself. Lena continues alone to the lighthouse, where she finds human remains and another video message from Kane. He told something to find Lena, then killed himself with a grenade. After he dies, Lena sees something that looks exactly like Kane appear on the recording. In talking with Ventress in the crater, Lena learns that the doctor thinks that the Shimmer isn't going to stop growing. Eventually, it will consume all life on Earth. Ventress then dissolves, and only an iridescent cloud is left in her place. This cloud, in absorbing a drop of blood from her face, begins to change into a humanoid figure that mimics every move Lena makes. As her duplicate becomes more and more like her, Lena, by moving in a way that the other Lena will copy, has the doppelganger set off one of Kane's grenades, and she manages to escape the fire consuming the lighthouse. Back at the military base outside the Shimmer, Lena, like Kane, is the only survivor from her expedition, thus the interrogation we see at the start of the film. When the two are reunited, Kane, or rather his duplicate, asks if Lena is really Lena, but she doesn't reply. The pair embrace, and their shimmering eyes give viewers their answer. This movie is a beautiful and understated horror film. In many ways it parallels John Carpenter's The Thing, though the group here is all women, and it makes sense that their reactions to alien life might be different in a lush paradise, as opposed to the frozen hellscape of Antarctica. Though they are trapped, it doesn't feel that way for much of the film. Being able to move and the fact that the shimmer creates beautiful refractions in addition to horrifying ones helps morale, even as members of the group die, though there is a constant creeping dread that nothing and no one is really as they seem, combined with the fact that one's own humanity is altered by the shimmer's power. Also, this movie is based on a novel, which, in writing this, I've convinced myself to check out. I give this film 2 doppelgangers out of 3. Our next film this month is 2022's Prey. We meet Naru in the year 1719. Naru is part of the Comanche nation, and she's a skilled healer, but she would rather spend her time in the woods with the axe her father left her, practicing her hunting skills with her dog, Sari. One day, Naru sees what she believes is a thunderbird in the sky, and takes it as an omen that she should set out to become a hunter. In reality, the lights are no omen, but rather the ship of a predator who has traveled to Earth for a different kind of hunt. When a young man is taken by a mountain lion, Naru follows her brother Tabe and a group of other young warriors into the woods after them. While she is able to save the injured man's life, Naru wishes to join Tabe in hunting the lion. She has a plan to lure it out, and though the plan works, Naru falls from a tree while confronting the big cat, and she wakes up at home to find that her brother killed the lion, which killed another young hunter before it was finally brought down by Tabe. While all this is happening, the predator is nearby. It gradually moves up the food chain as it hunts. Starting with a rattlesnake, it later kills a wolf. And while Naru knows that she's inexperienced as a hunter, she tries to convince her brother that there's something worse in the woods than the mountain lion. Determined to prove herself, Naru sets out with Sari, hunting rabbits and traveling to the edge of the land she knows. She nearly sinks in a bog, but luckily she's tied a rope to her axe that she can use as both a weapon and a means to pull herself to safety. Later, Naru comes face to face with a bear by a river, while Naru manages to find shelter in a fallen tree, and Sari, thankfully, doesn't attempt to take down the much bigger carnivore. The predator appears and slaughters the bear. Now certain that her suspicions were correct, Naru plans to hunt the predator, only to be found by a group of young Comanche warriors, sent to bring her home. They don't believe her story about the creature until it appears and begins to kill them. Naru manages to flee until her foot is caught in a metal trap. She just manages to free herself before being knocked unconscious. That night, Naru wakes to find herself in a cage in a French fur trapper's camp. She and Sari have both been captured. One man speaks Comanche and tells her that the men are hunting the predator and that she should cooperate with them. Naru won't speak to him, but she is soon horrified to find that her brother, Tabe, has also been captured, and the next day the two are tied to a dead tree to serve as bait for the alien hunter. Of course, while the predator kills most of the Frenchmen, you don't need to know much French to know that when the word merde is uttered, the true extent of the men's mistake has finally dawned on them. Naru, with Tabe's encouragement, manages to free herself and her brother, and back at camp she finds Sari and kills 2 men who attempt to kill her. The man from the night before has lost a foot to one of the predator's weapons, and Naru agrees to help him if he will show her how to use his pistol. The herbs that Naru gives the man help slow the bleeding, and also lower his body temperature. When the predator returns, the man lies on the ground and pretends to be dead, and Naru realizes that the creature, whatever it is, can't see the man. Of course, he screams when the predator steps on him and is swiftly killed, but at least Naru now knows that if she takes the same herbs, her decreased body heat will make her invisible to her enemy. Tabe arrives on a horse, and while the siblings are able to injure the predator by working together, Tabe dies, sacrificing himself so Naru can survive and finish the hunt. She manages to capture the last surviving Frenchman, and by using him as bait, she lures the predator into a final fight. By this time, Naru has seen that the predator's mask directs one of its weapons, so she uses the pistol she acquired in the fur trapper's camp to shoot the mask off. With this, she's able to trick the predator into getting trapped in the bog that nearly killed Naru herself at the start of the film. Naturally, the predator shoots at Naru, but since she's effectively invisible, the shot misses, and the spear-like projectile, guided by the mask, returns to the predator and kills it. Naru beheads the creature, painting her face with its green blood before returning home, where she is declared a war chief, just like Tabe was after his defeat of the mountain lion. Naru drops the Frenchman's pistol along with the predator's head, and warns her mother and the rest of the Comanche that they need to move on, away from human and inhuman threats. This movie is a fascinating, satisfying story about Naru and her growth as a hunter and individual. While things often don't go the way she plans, the reason that she's ultimately able to defeat the predator is that she observes her surroundings and her enemy, and gleans important information, even from life-threatening setbacks. Also, it bears noting that the Comanche warriors who come to bring her home don't seem to disrespect her just because she's a girl. You can imagine them treating a boy the same way, annoyed by a headstrong young person's insistence that there's something out there that no one else understands. In contrast to the characters in Annihilation, Naru isn't doomed by the place she finds herself in, or the otherworldly life she encounters. Instead, in a contest between hunters, Naru is underestimated, and ultimately, her knowledge of both medicine and combat enable her to survive. This is a satisfying subversion of gender roles. While hunting and healing are often gendered skills, Naru doesn't survive because one skill is better than the other. She defeats her foe because she has knowledge of both. Oh, and sorry, the dog survives. I give this film 4 corpses out of 5. Our book this month is a title I've wanted to bring for a while. It's called Scream: Chilling Adventures in the Science of Fear. No, this isn't a horror novel, but it's a nonfiction book that explores a question I'm obviously fascinated with. Why do we enjoy horror? What is the appeal of scary media, and why are horror novels and movies so perennially popular? Sociologist Margee Kerr has studied fear for years. She's visited some of the most unsettling places in the world, including Japan's Aokigahara Forest and Pennsylvania's Eastern State Penitentiary. Whether you're scared of heights, the dark, death, or all of the above, Kerr has explored places that epitomize your worst fear. And what she's found over and over is that people love terrifying experiences. Whether it's haunted houses, bungee jumping, or a host of other scream-inducing attractions. Even in a time with plenty of real things to worry about, horror is perhaps more popular than ever. Here's a quote from this book that does a great job of summing up horror's place in the contemporary world. Quote, "Viewer-hungry news outlets manipulate our fear response and our brain's inability to distinguish, quote-unquote, real threats from the abstract and anomalous terrors across the globe that appear within seconds on our smartphones and TVs. We live in an objectively safer world than ever before, but we're bombarded with fear-triggering messages and worried about issues that likely won't affect us and are far from our control. We are arguably consumed with fear." So, of course, horror is popular for exactly this reason. After all, it's always been a scary time to be alive, and horror experiences, like haunted houses, are frightening but ultimately safe. Facing our fears in controlled environments can leave us feeling a sense of comfort, even relief, when we realize that we can do things that initially seem impossible. As Kerr writes, quote, "Nothing would change the fact that I could turn the light back on, stand up, and walk out. I am not a prisoner. I am not trapped. I do have control over my life and my actions." End quote. Observation is, and always has been, a useful arrow in the quiver of human talents. We're not the strongest or fastest predators, but we have endurance and observation on our side. We can keep going and learn from our mistakes long after most mammals would have died of exhaustion. Of course, horror subverts the concept of observation. Characters watching something in a movie often find that they are being watched in turn, frequently with devastating consequences. In the case of the team of 5 in Annihilation, we see specific, obvious threats, but it's also the air they breathe, the very atmosphere of the place they're exploring that's learning from them, and eventually changing them at a cellular level. In Prey, Naru survives because she observes the predator and adjusts her strategy to counter its skills. Yes, it has more advanced technology at its disposal than Naru does, but as Dan Trachtenberg, the director of Prey, explains, this is a movie that's about, quote, "using your smarts and ingenuity. There's no set of brawn other than fortitude that can allow you to succeed against the impossible." While knowledge can't always save us, it's comforting to know that observation helps us understand our world, and at least gives us some defense against potential threats, both real and imagined. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back again soon with another terrifying trio.